Carlos, it's been 5 years since we had you on DadAwesome. I think it was episode like 47 last time. So welcome back.
Bro, I definitely, 5 years, I definitely have had to go through an iteration of trying to dye my gray hairs in my beard. And then now I've just let them go. So you are seeing the Santa Claus version of who I was 5 years ago. And I appreciate you having me back.
Hey, salt and pepper is all. I'm just embracing that season
Salt
right now.
and
I just turned 40 a year ago.
Okay.
Didn't you just a couple months ago turn 50?
I
Am
just
I right?
turned 50, bro. I'm a decade ahead of you. And I will let you know sooner or later that there will be way more salt than pepper. And so, like you just need to get the whole salt and pepper thing. It's like, no, man, just salt. Let's just go all salt,
Great salt. I love it. I love it now. And I think I'm catching you at a moment where you've got your oldest daughter getting married next year. Your other daughter is moved out of the house into her own apartment. Am I right? Is that kind of the chapter?
Bro, you are getting me in. I mean, if you got me 5 years ago, I was freaking drowning in tweening and teening and and now I've got a 21-year-old who's engaged literally as we speak right now, as you're looking at me on my camera. My wife is upstairs with Brady, her fiance, and her. They're both 21, and they're getting married in May. And then my 19-year-old, she just turned 20 last week, has moved out and living with roommates in an apartment. I'd say moved out. She literally sleeps here half the month. Like she's like, and I'm like, babe, like you're paying rent at this nice bougie apartment. She's like, yeah, but I just miss you guys. So I'm like, okay, so why are you paying rent? Anyway, and then I've got a 17-year-old son who is a junior in high school who we're trying to figure out how we can move him out faster than the rest of them. So that's kind of where we sit right now.
That's the chapter. And I mean, just even by form of like time stamping our last conversation, we talked mostly about Kill the Spider. That was kind of the main emphasis.
Okay.
So that's 3 books ago, right? Does that sound right? That's 3 books ago?
Yeah. Kill the Spider, Enter Wild, and now How to Human. Absolutely.
How to Human. Yeah. So I knew, just how you have continued to invest though in different, like what's God doing in you. And then you just bring that wholeheartedly to the world. I'm grateful for you.
Yes,
and
thanks.
We love catching dads in hinge point moments. It's one of my favorite things. So you are at that moment. I mean, you're about ready to have a daughter, get married. You just moved out. You're 20-year-old. I mean, it's hinge point moments are fun moments to talk the dad life because it's maybe a little more introspective than other moments. You also just did a whole series on parenting on your podcast, which we'll link that series so we can just send our crew over for all the goodness. But you mentioned something that I think you collected thousands from your Insta Familia, your Instagram family. You get thousands of questions, and that there was a thread in those questions of survival, a thread of how am I going to make it? Will I make it? Will I ever make it? A thread of desperation and survival versus the thread the charge that you're just so passionate about, which is a hopeful, like, no, let's stay hopeful in the dad life. Let's not stay, we're not defeated. This is a great opportunity. Would you just talk about like that thread of what you gathered and how you encourage dads in that?
Yeah. I do feel like, I mean, let's not sugarcoat it, like the amount of, the navigation that dads and moms have to go through with their kids and all of the ways that could possibly trip up your kids. There are, I just moved my parents across the street and we were having a conversation with my mom. I was having with her last night and she looked at me, she's like, I don't think I could have done it. Like if you had a phone when you were 18, if you had the ability to do all these things, when you were 15, I don't know if I could have done it. And I was like, no, Mom, you could have done it. Like I'm doing it. And so you definitely could have done it. And of course there's positives, right? Like, Mom, you could have actually tracked me and found me when I was doing what I wasn't supposed to be doing because Life 360 would have told you, right? And so like there's pluses and their minuses, but I did find a common thread of parents being like, I don't know what to do. I don't think I have the capacity to know everything I need to know in order to make my kids safe, in order to protect my kids, in order to do, especially dads, right? Like, I mean, let's just be honest, like for a second, like dads already, there's data. I'm not being sexist when I say this. There's just data that shows that men have a lot harder time connecting emotionally with their kids, with their spouse, with their even their dude friends, right? And so I think there's a lot of dads that are like, gosh, my daughters are just they're connected to their devices, they're all these things. And so there was a large amount of people that were like, maybe I just can't do it. Maybe I just give up. Maybe I just try to keep them alive. And you're right. I am the hopeful guy. I am the parent that's like, you know what? Honestly, I have a 21-year-old daughter, a 20-year-old daughter, and a 17-year-old son. And the last 4 years of their lives have been my favorite season I've ever dadded. Is dadded a word?
I think so. Yeah.
Let's go. We just make it up. And it literally has been my favorite because at the end of the day, all of those all the things that we may be scared of that provide us with I think moving targets of trying to figure out how to nail this thing as a parent. All those things are there, but what's not a moving target is like loving and spending time with your kids. Like there is nothing that can trump that. There is no app you put on your phone. There is no family meeting that you can plan twice a week. There is no structural system of family navigation that you can put together that is just going to beat looking your kid in the eye every single day, telling them that you love them, showing them that you love them, and then treating them like you love them. And I just feel like that's the ticket, especially when everything's so chaotic. I'm like, okay, how can I just get parents to take a deep breath and go like, no, you not only can you do this, but you can crush this. And your kids are waiting and wanting and desiring for you to crush this. So they're rooting for you. They may not look like they are, but trust me, they are dying to make sure that they feel seen by you. And so do it, do it. So there's my little bit of hope in the midst of the chaos.
I love that. And you mentioning your eyes and looking at them and them wanting to be seen. What are even some examples of how we can, the non-emotional dad who might be listening right now, that's like, I don't know how to get through. Am I getting through it all? I don't know. Yeah. How would you encourage, like, just to take that little step closer and to use our eyes to get within, like, man, like our kids know that we're pursuing them.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be emotional. On what you think is emotional, I don't think it has to be these deep. You don't have to like write like a love letter to your daughter every 4 days and like put it in an envelope that she's going to save the rest of her life. Like, sure, great, that's fine. Like you can do that. But how about you just look and see what they're into, and get into it too. That's not super complicated. If your daughter is reciting the 12-minute version of Taylor Swift's longest freaking song that all the whatever teenage girls know, like, then guess what you get to do? Learn the lyrics. And next time it comes on, next time you hear them singing, can I tell you what's going to blow their mind and touch their emotions in ways? If they're non-emotional dad, just to themselves, it's like, I'm just a girl with my new boyfriend. She's like, oh my God. And all of a sudden they look over and they're like, wait, is dad literally singing every single word of this? Like, what are they into? And get into it. Like what when I do parenting seminars, I show this video of my daughter who was, when she was 12, maybe, she was into flipping water bottles. And I thought that was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, why is she spending all her time flipping water bottles? And well, you know what I needed to do to get back in touch with her? Because she drove me crazy in this season of life. 12 years old, she was the meanest. I'm telling you, my daughter was so mean. She would like try to make me cry on a daily basis, try to hurt my feelings. And I'm like, she's the last person I wanted to spend time with. She's the last person I wanted to, because she drove me crazy. And you know what I just needed to do? I needed to see her, right? And so, just like you said, how do we see them? What are they doing? So guess what I learned to do? Flip a water bottle. Guess what we started to do? Flip water bottles together. Like, what are those things that aren't hyper emotional, super deep, that you can just do that they're into, and you get into it with them?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's take it one step further and parallel some of the dad advice out of your recent book. So to be, to see, to free, just thinking about those categories and how those could be leveraged as just a framework for us dads. Could you kind of just expound a little bit on what you mean by those three categories?
Yeah. So the book is called How to Human. 3 ways to share life beyond what distracts, divides, and disconnects us. And I wrote it in the current cultural context of where we are, right? So we got people that we loved for 27 years. You found out who they voted for, and now you don't love them anymore. And it's like, and it's real, right? We're all hyper aware of our opinions these days. And so the book really helps people be human, see humans that don't look like them, think like them, vote like them, talk like them, love like them, all the things, and then free them. It's only step one to see somebody, but then how can you give them freedom in some way, shape, or form? And the whole dad part of this, and this is here's the thing. I give this talk, How to Human, in front of corporate settings all the time, right? They're used to these leadership principle people coming in. They're used to people telling them all of these ways on how they can make more money and be a better salesperson, all these things. And I come in and I'm like, listen, I know that you would love for me to come in and help you with relationships in the workplace, but the way to practice these things, be human, see humans, and free humans, isn't at work or in touchy, hyper political conversations. It's to do it at home with your kids. It's to do it with those people that you see every day. So it's really cool because all the examples I give when I do my live talk on How to Human, I think everyone's expecting me to talk about race and how to like heal the racial divide in the workplace in America. And I just talk about my kids. And I just talk about, listen, how can you be fully human with them? And what I mean by that is like present, right? Like we are not present anymore. You look at what being human means now compared to what being human meant even 30 years ago. The average American meal 30 years ago was 75 minutes long. The average American meal in 2023 is 12 minutes long. So don't tell me that we are being human anymore. We're literally not. And so like I lean into, what does it mean to be present, to be human with your family? But obviously, yes, we can blame our phones and things, but I mean, there's always been something that have kept our eyes off of our families, even before phones were around, right? Men were just dads were just addicted to their work before that. They were addicted to whatever it may have been. So what is the medicator? And we talked about this 5 years ago, the medicator that you're using to maybe medicate some inadequacies that you feel in your parenting. Break those things and be more present. What does it look like to lower the volume of life, slow the pace of life down? That's what my next book that's coming out in 2024 is all about presence. And it's all about, I did an experiment where I didn't look at a screen. This is crazy. I didn't look at a single screen for 11 weeks. So I didn't look at a phone, an Apple Watch, a laptop, an iPad, nothing for 11 weeks. I didn't know what's happening on planet Earth. And I was just present. And it felt like I was like a dad in 1972. It was the craziest thing ever. And I got my brain scanned at the beginning and I got it scanned at the end. So, so the next memoir is going to be kind of what that journey looks like. But it was an experiment on presence and I'm telling you, my kids, my wife, my friends, they're like, you are a completely different human being when you're present, when you be human. That's step one. Step two, free. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, see humans. See. So step two is see. And, and that's the water bottle flip, right? That's the thing where how can you see them? And even I would say like in difficult parenting situations, a lot of times what parents see and what dads see is the problem. And so we try to parent the problem. And that's never what it is, because we're not even seeing past, we're not seeing them, we're seeing the behavior. And so seeing your kids, it's hard, right? So like, I know it sounds catchy, be, see, and free. Okay, sweet, I got this thing down. No, man, you read the book and you're like, oh, this is actually complicated. This is hard. This is going to take a little bit more work than maybe I thought I had in me. So see them for who they are, and not who you want them to be, and then free them. What are ways as a dad that you can free your kids? How can you free them from mistakes that you made growing up? How can you do that in a way that's not full of shame? What are ways that you can, come together with other dads or maybe even free other dads, that you may see some dads in some chains and whatever that may be. Mm-hmm. So the whole BC free thing is, I like things that rhyme. I'm a child of the 90s. So I'm like all in, but it's memorable enough that I think every single day we can lower the volume of life and be present. We can see those around us that maybe we vehemently disagree with or can't stand. And sometimes there's people that we can't stand are our own kids. Let's just, let's not sugarcoat things. And then how can we free them? Like what are ways that you as a father are set apart and separated from the rest of all of humanity, all of the other individuals that are speaking into their lives? You, as a father, you as a dad, you are set apart in a way that nobody else is. So how can you use that to, for a lot of kids, just a look from their father looking them in the eyes and saying, I love you and I'm proud of you. Just that is going to free your kids in ways that you probably can't even imagine. So those are the 3 steps: be, see, and free.
So good. So good. Let's jump back to your daughter at the age of 13 when you didn't want to hang out with
Oh
her.
yeah.
And
Let's
you're
not. I'm
yeah, well,
triggered.
you, so how did that move towards freeing her and freeing you to maybe be
Oh
close
man.
together again after that chapter?
Yeah, I did this thing where um uh she'd get home from school and I'd ask her how school was and she's like, fine. And I was like, how'd you do gymnastics? Fine. And then I'll never forget the day that she came home and I was like, how's school? Fine. How's gymnastics? Fine. Hey, you want to go in the backyard and flip a water bottle with dad? Yeah, I'd like that. I was like, what? Then we go back there and we have this moment, right? We're flipping water bottles, we're laughing, we're having a great 20 minutes of fun, right? After I felt like a year of not having fun with her. Walk back inside. She went to her room. I went to the sofa, started watching the news. And I'll never forget, man, like 5 minutes later, she comes walking out of her room, plops down right next to me on the sofa, doesn't say anything, and just like sticks her head into my armpit like she did 6 months ago before she turned 12, right? And I just remember holding my breath, going like, oh my gosh, like we both just were freed from animosity towards each other that we'd felt but didn't know how to talk about. But guess what? We didn't even have to talk about it to find the freedom. We found the freedom through experiencing something together. And that's it, man. That's what I want dads to know, is that, for me and Sayana, the freedom wasn't necessarily found in like some deep healing conversation. It was more of a moment that we had together.
Play. I mean, really an experience, or you guys played together and that unlocked
Yeah.
and melted some of that
Oh yeah.
the wall. That's amazing.
Absolutely, man.
Let's jump from there into a post that you shared. It starts with in 100 years. You talk about like who's really going to know who I am in 100 years, no matter
Ooh,
how famous you are. Like it's like those come and go, whatever recognition.
yeah.
But there's a chance we could be famous for our great grandkids or whatever the breakdown is. Do you remember? Do you recall that post?
I do. I'm actually going to pull it up while you
Yeah,
ask
great.
me that question, because when I wrote it, I can't remember what I was like specifically thinking about. Here it is right here. In 100 years. Oh yeah, just a reminder, don't waste the time you have, because people will remember you, because people will remember you, just maybe not the people you think. And yeah, that's it, right? It's like, who's going to remember, especially because we have digital footprints now. Like everything you say, I just think to myself, everything I post online, everything, even if I like can't stand somebody on Twitter and I have an off moment and I go off on them, I just think to myself, my great grandkids who are going to be trying to figure out who they are going to get to me at some point,
Yeah.
and they're going to get to, and this is what they're going to read. Like what is it that we're leaving them? What is the um what is the truth of who you want them to remember? And so, yeah, we're going to be remembered by just our family and the generations that we that have to come behind us, because we're the greats or whatever it ends up being. And so I guess, I just wrote that post because I wanted people to, everyone's trying their hardest to, to leave some lasting impact on planet Earth, and they're trying to do it by making videos and all. And I just sit here thinking like, man, like hopefully my kids will tell their kids, my dad was awesome, and my dad loved me, and my dad saw me, my dad freed me in these ways. And then my grandkids will tell their kids, yeah, my great grandpa, it's just because we all have an expiration date, like every single one of us, we're going to work as hard as we can. And no, like my dad used to say all the time, you've never seen a U-Haul behind a hearse. And so
That's
like
right.
we can work for all this stuff, but at the end of the day, what are we taking with us? Nothing. What are we leaving? I mean, material stuff, sure, but what we're really leaving is that legacy of love and seeing and freeing as many people as we can. And so, yeah, that's what that was about.
Really helpful. Your vantage point, Carlos, is about a decade of more life than me. Not quite 8 years or something like that of
Yeah,
life, but then about a
sure.
12 years of parenting more than me. My oldest is
Yeah.
10. That's the chapter.
Yeah.
And this could be from your own lived experience, like, hey, this is what you'd want to pass on to this dad on the other end of the Zoom line right now that has a 10-year-old. But it also could be some of the things you gathered or talked about over that 5-week parenting series you just did. So you were gathering from experts and friends that are experts. What just like dad wisdom, dad ideas, dad priorities would you want to pass on to me in this moment?
Yeah. I just think that, um, okay, so I mean, we'll just go with like raising girls, like one thing that my wife really helped me with, because I didn't know, man. I just had brothers, and I didn't. My daughters were my freaking world, and I was their prince, and it was, it was amazing. And then boys entered, and I was like, what the heck? Like, they've got goo goo eyes for these knuckleheads and these, and something that I did early on in their dating, was that I actually brought these boys in like close, as opposed to what you immediately as a dad want to do is distance yourself from the boys who, are now stealing your daughters from you and their hearts. And so it's counterintuitive to do it, but I invited him in. And I mean, I took them on vacation 3 months into them dating. I'm like, sweet, they're coming in. And I just remember all my dad friends like, what are you doing? Like, this is horrible. No, you don't want to bring them in close. Oh, you know what it did? It did two things. It allowed me to see every facet of who they were. And I could tell I could tell a lot better close up than I could from far apart.
Yep.
What it is that you're looking for. And then secondly, it allowed them to trust me. And I built some relationships with these young men that were courting my daughters, that I know a lot of my dad friends wish they had with their future son-in-laws or whatever it may be. And so, that is one thing that I try to tell dads more than anything right now is like, dating's going to happen. Again, my son hasn't started dating yet, so I'll have a whole other talk, I'm sure, at that point. But when it comes to daughters, as a dad, don't do the whole shine my shotgun thing in front of them. Like, if you've raised your daughters well enough, you won't have to shine a shotgun. Your daughters will believe in who they are. They will believe in their worth. And you can now at that point, invite those young men in closer. Now, that's not to say that when they come in closer and you see something that you don't get to, there's been some uncomfortable conversations. But I wouldn't have been able to have those uncomfortable conversations had I not brought them in close. And so as you parent, right, we may think that parenting is a lot better done when you have binoculars, because a lot of times, right, you think of binoculars and you think, man, I can see something really close. Like, I'm looking out my window right now and I see a squirrel on the chimney at the house in front of me, next door to me. So I could take out some binoculars right now and I could look and I could locate that squirrel. And guess what? I could see it really well from far away. I could. That's what's the great thing about binoculars. But if that squirrel moves 2 inches to the left, if you've ever had binoculars on, you lose it. Like you lose it for like 10 seconds and you're looking, you're searching until finally you narrow it again. That is not the way that you want to be parenting your kids, especially into their teenage years. You don't want to be doing it with binoculars. Instead of doing it with binoculars so that you can see them closely, just get close. Just get close to them. Keep it close. And so I think that's been, I mean, recently, I'm sure there's 1,000 things I could have said. I'm not quite sure why I picked that one, but I feel like lately for me, that's the one that I keep, probably because a lot of my guy friends, their daughters are just starting to date. And so I think that's been what's been on repeat a lot lately, is just like, bring them in close. Don't watch with binoculars, but bring them in close.
Yeah, really, really helpful, Carlos. And then one just other category to kind of tee up, if you had any advice in, is the screen conversation, which of course we could do a whole series on, but any just top of mind. I know your wife mentioned in your series, she's like, I would have tried to wait longer, but yet it's good to have that time under your roof where you're coaching, training, but any just high level advice, wisdom on screens and technology?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't give up on them. You're going to want to give up. You're going to want to just be like, shrug your shoulders, be like, I can't control it. So I'm just going to give up. Don't. You have only a certain amount of time to coach your kids with screens while they live with you. And so, my son's 17 years old, still doesn't have social media, still is on screen time. At 17, still has like, where it's like, well, he's about to be a young man. Sweet. Yeah. But guess what? I'm going to give him that freedom slowly under my roof so that It's actually, so I guess it was 2 weeks ago was when I gave him Instagram like 20 minutes a day, and he's like, he literally 2 weeks later is like, I'm looking at his screen time. He's not even opening it up. He's like, that's just stupid. People are just talking about themselves, but just don't give up. Don't give in. It's hard. It is scary. I'm not gonna say it's not. But man, what a gift you have to have your kids under your roof and you be the ones that are coaching them, into this. I tell parents all the time, you can try to stand in front of a tidal wave with the surfboard and block the tidal wave. It's just going to take you out. Or you can flip that surfboard around, jump on it when the wave hits just right, and you can start surfing. And that's what we need to do. We don't need to try to block it because it's coming. So, when it comes to screens, and again, wait as long as you can. Just wait as long as you can to give it to them, knowing that you're probably going to wait less time than even 10 years ago, because kids, that's how they communicate now. That's where I started to realize that my son was missing out on relationships because he wasn't on group threads. And next thing you know, he's not going out because he didn't even know what was happening. So it's like, okay, what you're just going to have to, navigate it. And then last I'd say on this is, don't make the rule at 13 or when you give them the phone, whatever, 16, don't make that rule like this is just the rule we're going to live by. And until they move out, that's it. Because technology continues to develop and things continue to shift. You have to continue to shift in your parenting and how you're parenting them with technology.
Okay. Really, really helpful. Carlos, thank you. And one thing that we didn't talk about, but I just want to thank you for is the amount that you've encouraged me to look at counselor opportunities, to find a Christian counselor, a counselor for my kids. We always recommend on DadAwesome that us dads go see a counselor, but the way that you and your wife have kind of like welcomed a broader audience into that, hey, your kids are seeing a counselor. They're finding freedom because you don't have everything that they need. You actually need a professional. So I'm going to link out to your other podcast on that instead of having you talk about it now. But thank you for your just transparency in that area. It's a huge encouragement.
No, absolutely. Again, and we are very blessed in Nashville, Tennessee, to have Daystar Christian Counseling for kids. I stuck every single one of my kids in there when they were 6, 7. Because I know I've jacked my kids up. So I needed somebody to come in there behind me to help us out. And and so I recommend it for every single parent to find someone else that your kid can talk to and let them talk to them.
It's amazing. Would you say a short prayer for all of us dads listening?
Yeah, absolutely. I pray right now for any dad that's listening that may be feeling overwhelmed. And so what I ask for, Jesus, very specifically, and Holy Spirit, is for you to come in and maybe blow some breath in their lungs that they didn't even know they needed. Those dads that maybe didn't know they were holding their breath. Maybe right now is the moment where they get new breath in their lungs and they're like, oh, this is what I needed. This is the boost that I needed. And so I just encourage any overwhelmed dad right now, by the blood of the cross and the power of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, may you, Jesus, be the exact thing that takes that overwhelming nature off of them. And may they just begin right now to feel a new sense of freedom that they haven't felt in a long time. I pray all these things in your name. Amen.